I don't have a male boss. No one mansplains anything to me. There's no correctile dysfunction at my office. I will live life on my own terms. And I feel like that's like the ultimate freedom, essentially. And it's just invaluable.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Today on The Exit Interview, meet Niki Ghazian, attorney, model, mom, and total trailblazer, proving that being unapologetically yourself isn't a liability. It's your greatest asset. Niki, thank you so much for being a guest and coming on our podcast. You are a model and an attorney at law, but you've been unapologetically yourself through and through. You started as a model, you continued to model, you have a following on social media, and you also have your own practice. So how do you continue to forge forward being a model without worrying about all the judgments that come along with that?
There are a lot of attorneys base like their self-image around being an attorney because they're fucking nerds. No, I'm just kidding. No, just because like that's such a big part of their life and that's who they are, right? And maybe there isn't much they've done before or after that. And that's okay because it takes up so much of you to be a lawyer. But for me, there was so much I did before that I've integrated into my identity that this is, I'm not just a lawyer, you know, I'll never be just a lawyer. So as far as being like sexy or whatever, like I feel like if it's, I don't go to court dressed inappropriately. Like I dress very conservatively to court. You know, when I'm meeting with clients, I dress very conservatively. And I don't think it's anybody's business how I dress or what I do on my time off, unless I'm showing signs that I'm in violation of, you know, moral turpitude or just being, you know, scandalous in some way morally that would give rise to questioning my ability to practice law. But like, it's a sexist notion that a woman can't be attractive and sexy and also be competent and able to do her job. So I don't really see the issue with what I do on my time off. And I don't think anybody else does, you know, like I've never encountered that. I think if someone had an issue with that, they wouldn't hire me in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think for most of my clients and people that I work with, like colleagues, you have a conversation with me for 5 minutes and it's very clear that I'm competent at what I do. Of course. So if you can't reconcile someone being like attractive and sexy and fun and able to do other things with them being competent as a lawyer, that's your problem. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like there's kind of, even though law traditionally is kind of like a conservative type of work, I've seen a shift in that. You know, you're seeing lawyers that are doing different things in the public spotlight, like Arash Homampur. He's probably like the best trial lawyer in LA. He gets like multi-million-dollar verdicts. Yeah. And he's like, you know, tatted up and he's an EDM DJ on his time off. Right. Great. You have an identity outside of being an amazing lawyer. That's what that's called being multifaceted. You know, like my friend Kat Martinez, she has millions of followers. She's an immigration attorney and her whole brand is, you know, she's like the Barbie lawyer. She wears all pink. Her office is all pink.
And you're like, the Persian Barbie.
Yeah. Like if you got a problem with people expressing themselves as human beings outside of what they do, then you're closed-minded, period.
Yeah. No, and I think there's, to your point, I think there's more flexibility around like a singularity. People like to just be like, oh, I know you're this, and that's sort of it. Then there's kind of like a tunnel vision. And now I think because people are allowed to express themselves a little bit more, whether it's social media or just, you know, I mean, social media kind of gives it an amplification.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, you know, for me coming up, like it was, you know, you had to kind of like stay in your lane and to kind of be one thing. And, you know, there used to be like how we dressed at work and how we did this and how I used to have my hair.
That's the patriarchy holding you down.
100%. No, I remember when I stopped straightening my hair to go to work. I was just like, I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's racist, you know, because
of course,
you know, like certain people of color, they don't like to see you at work with like dreadlocks or just anything, any kind of hair.
Professional.
Like what?
Texture.
This is the natural texture of my hair.
Absolutely. But there used to be a lot more. intense, you know, kind of like fitting in or being respectable and what that looked like.
Yeah, I feel like ever since we got the genderless bathroom, that like people have become much more accepting of others.
Absolutely.
Have you ever faced sort of like criticism, or have people advised you like, oh, now you should go private now that you're an attorney, or things like that? Or has it actually helped your business?
Yeah, no, never. No one's ever said that to me. You know, I would say it's helped my business because to the extent that I've had a following, anytime I have had a prominent case or whatever, like just TV and media is like on me and after me.
Right.
And so, you know, like I've been on Crime Watch Daily. I've been on Inside the NFL. Like I've been on so many different things. Because of my cases, because of modeling, because of football. And so that following kind of like, it became like a cohesive thing. And it's essential that it essentially means that I'm a public figure that's done these things that have all snowballed into what I am now.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what was because you're a litigator, was that always something you knew you wanted to be, or and what drew you to practicing that kind of law?
So no, I didn't always know I was going to be a litigation attorney. Even up until I finished law school, I wasn't positive of what kind of area of law I wanted to practice. But I did know I wanted to do something to work with ordinary people and advocate for ordinary people, because that's just something I always did growing up. I was kind of like outspoken and would stand up for other people. Like if someone was being bullied at school, I would stand up for them. Or if there was like an issue that was impacting the student body, I would kind of like lead the way, you know, to organize and advocate for that. And so this is kind of like who I've always been. And then when I came out of law school, what I had excelled in was like torts, contracts, criminal defense. So those were my subjects that I was good at. So I thought, why not personal injury for my first job? Because I could work with plaintiffs, which were ordinary people who were hurt. And it's very grueling and burdensome to deal with insurance companies on your own. And I thought that would be an area where I could, you know, stand up for the little guy. And so I took my first job as an associate at a plaintiff's firm, and actually that's where I met Shana. So and we had a lot in common. We both played water polo. Do you want water polo?
We did. We both played water polo. We were friends pretty immediately when we started working together, and then we stayed friends after that. We ran into each other at the gym a few times, and we were like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then it's funny though, because we both started working at a law firm. We were employed by a practice, and then you ultimately branched off and ended up being a sole practitioner and creating your own firm. So what motivated you to do that, and how has that journey been?
Well, I think the biggest thing when I was an associate, like the first year, I was working so many hours. I wasn't really getting paid that much. I started to gain some weight because it's like when you're sitting at a desk for 10 to 12 to even sometimes 14 hours a day, like, you know what I mean?
Just eat,
And then
no, what do you mean? Is that what happens? I don't know anything about that.
Eating, literally, there was a Susie Cakes next to our office.
And
I would go there every day. I would go there every day. I would get the coconut cake.
Let's go.
And that's when I decided that's it. But that's not the issue. The issue really for me became like work-life balance. And I was like, and don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful for that first associate job. Like I learned so much from the Stolls as a litigator. They're amazing people and amazing lawyers, and I literally learned so much from them. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now without what I learned from them. I'm very grateful. But like I didn't see that being like a long-term thing for me because I was working so many hours and not making enough. And I knew that, you know, I wanted to have a family and have a kid. And as a mom, like you need to be able to be there for your kid. You're even if the kid has a dad, even if it has a nanny, you're the primary caretaker. So you're gonna have to show up for your kid, and that's gonna be your number one priority. So bearing that in mind and work-life balance, like, you know, I like to travel. I can't imagine having to ask, hey, can I go on vacation? Fuck that, bro.
Fuck out of here with that.
Not asking someone for permission to go on vacation.
Absolutely.
I'm not a slave. Like that's my life.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, that's it. I got to see this world.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to have this kid. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like it's more like, do I want to work harder or do I want to work smarter? Because if I could have my own practice, and don't get me wrong, it has its own up and downs of like, you know, you make more this month, you make less this month. It's not as stable as getting a paycheck every month. And some people like that security. But for me, I'm like, no risk, no reward. And if I can, you know, work less and be there on my own terms, for me, I'm getting to live my life. And that's like invaluable.
I think that you are definitely one of the people that sort of awakened that possibility for me as I decided to make the jump into entrepreneurship, and Kisha as well. The two of you had very similar perspectives, which was you're able to sort of like live your life and prioritize your time rather than, yes, maybe you get like a stable paycheck here and there, and that's what people call stability. But is it stability or is it more entrapment? I'm not sure.
Well, it's like complacency.
It is.
And there's nothing wrong with being complacent. If that makes you happy, if you can lay your head down at night and be like, this is what I want for my life, and I don't want it to be any different than this, I'm good with this, I'm ready to do this until I'm 60 and retired. Do you? You know, different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
But for me, like that wasn't going to work.
Yeah. And it was so funny too, because I know that we had lunch one time and we were talking about, you know, there's been stresses in our lives and we always like lament together. And at one point I was like, well, have you considered like going back to like a practice or like joining a firm? And you were like, what the fuck? Like, why would I do that? So I could have less of my own time and have to like, what? Like, it was like
work more, make less.
Work more, and you were just like, absolutely not.
The only way I would ever consider, you know, shutting down my practice is if I married a really rich guy. I'm just being honest. You know what I mean? And even then, I would still take cases to, you know, practice. Because I enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
Absolutely.
You know? I would love to like be in a situation where I practiced for fun.
Right. You know, you mentioned this in the work-life balance kind of context. And Shana and I have talked about this a lot, like that sort of paradox that women have where you're like, you know, you're starting your career, you're trying to build it to a certain place. There's also then this whole biological clock thing that's happening at the same time. And you're trying to figure out like, well, I want to get my career to a certain place so I can go have a kid. But then you get your career to a certain place, and then you have to. Did
you see the Barbie movie?
Yes.
Okay, no, you're laughing.
Yeah.
And from the outside, it's laughable, but at the end of that, I think who's the actress? America Ferrera had this long monologue about how, and it was like a feminist monologue, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's about how women are under so much pressure to be perfect in this world. Like you have to be skinny, but not too skinny, and curvy, but not too fat, and this and that, and it's exactly that. It's like women were like upholding society in every possible, like society would crumble as we know it if we pulled back. Because we're legit doing everything. Men are like drinking beer and farting and going to their 9 to 5 jobs and coming inside us while we're pregnant for 9 months and then taking care of them. I'm just saying. It's not really. And then they have this like narrative that like, oh, men are under so much pressure because we're providers. We have to provide.
Well, not anymore, because a lot of households are also two family income.
Women
they are.
That's
the reality. So on top of women having to bear the child, take care of it, we are now also expected to be a provider. I don't know what this 50-50 shit is about. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
It's never 50-50.
Can you have a baby? Because if you can, that's fine. Go have it. Because I don't like being pregnant.
Not only that, but whenever you, from somebody who comes from corporate, like when you go on maternity leave, your career basically stops for all of those months.
It literally hurts your career. The trajectory you are on, that you worked hard.
You worked so hard.
You know what I mean? And
it stops.
We're expected to look good. We're expected to be a bad bitch. We're expected
smile more,
to have a career, to smile more, to have a baby, to take care of the house, to take care of the baby.
Don't be too honest.
Still, you have to do well at your career
and get promoted.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
No. it's not fair.
And then if you say something in a meeting that maybe your counterpart male would say, you may be perceived as
you're a bitch. You're a bitch. If you dare to stand up for yourself, you're a bitch. And you're the problem. Yeah. Jinx, literally, you're the problem. Because it's a man's world. It literally is a man's world. And it's crazy.
Right. So for you having your own business, like, what do you feel like that it inoculated you, it sounds like, from at least from some of that?
Well, it saves me from, I don't have a male boss. No one mansplains anything to me. There's no correctile dysfunction at my office.
Wait, you say correctile dysfunction? Oh my God, please put it on a t-shirt so I can wear it tomorrow.
So
it's amazing.
No,
merch.
I'm able to live life on my own terms, and I feel like that's like the ultimate freedom. Essentially, and it's just invaluable.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I also think too, you've been a little bit of a trailblazer because you started being a model, you were out there on social, you became an attorney, you continued your model career, and now we're seeing attorneys and law firms, especially like sole practitioners, going on social media, sharing their education and their expertise and their knowledge and getting clients that way and becoming influencers in a sense within their little niche. Even within the financial services sectors, we're seeing like finfluencers, which are like financial influencers coming up. And it's a way to share thought leadership and show you as an expert because you're selling intellectual property within the finance space. And then to be able to get prospects and clients and like branding, exposure, engagement, all of those types of things. So you had started that, and then now people are kind of falling in line, if you would, and joining that. And so do you continue to see that part of your life like continue to excel as long as you see yourself practicing law and even beyond? Like, is it something that you think you'll do even past when you decide to retire?
I think I've always been a trailblazer in general, like my entire life. Like when I was in high school and I played women's water polo, we were the first women's water polo team, at Santa Monica High School. When I went to Cal State Northridge and I played Division I for 1 year, that was the first women's water polo team that Cal State Northridge had. And in fact, we had to fight under Title IX to get that team. And then, I played in the lingerie football league. And back then when that started, the idea of women playing tackle football was completely taboo. Now, if, this last Super Bowl, they had a commercial with women playing tackle football. You see girls that are playing tackle football on the men's team at their high school. So it's like, I've been part of like the forefront of these movements, honestly, for women, but it's not something I've done consciously. Like I've just been myself and I've just been living my life.
And I think that's your superpower. I think that you're unapologetically yourself and you always stay true to that through and through. A lot of people are people pleasers. They're afraid to record the video, post the content because what are people going to think? And what is Joe next door going to think if he runs into my content? And you're just yourself. So what advice would you give to people who are a little bit like more risk adverse and think too much about what people are how they're going to be perceived?
Well, I know authenticity is the highest vibration. I'm really spiritual. I meditate a lot and everything and like above love and gratitude and all that good stuff. The highest vibration is authenticity. So if you step into a room or any kind of space, whether it's, someone's living room or boardroom, and you're the highest realist version of yourself. Not everyone's going to like you, but because you're having that high vibration, you're going to attract the right people and they're going to respect you. You know what I mean? And I think if your intentions are pure and you're being vulnerable in a meaningful, kind way, then like, why not be authentic? What's wrong with that?
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. I've seen this in my work. And I think it's great to see people model it and do it because I think it gives you permission to do it yourself, but it can be for someone who's a recovering people pleaser, is a recovering perfectionist. I've had to kind of evolve.
When you're a people pleaser, if you envision your energy, you're having to give up parts of yourself to those people that you are pleasing in a way that's not in line, that doesn't align with who you really are or how you really feel.
When you compromise.
So energetically, they're taking parts of you, literally. 100%. And personally, absolutely. Like every morning I do like a grounding meditation. But one of the ways that you could just not give that energy away to begin with is just to be real with yourself and only do shit that aligns with your highest self.
Right. Yeah. No, and listen, now I have a practice around doing it. It's just wasn't my conditioning. Like I had to learn how to walk in rooms, figure out what everybody else needed me to be, and be that thing. That was how I was a commitment.
And a lot of people will fall off when you don't do that.
Oh yeah.
But those are the people that are meant to fall off.
Oh my God, thank
you
God.
know what I mean?
It was like, let it
when you vibrate at the highest frequency, people will fall off. And trust me, you want those people to fall off. Because anything that's meant for you and to be with you will be for you. You will not need to grasp. You will not need to chase.
100%.
They will stay. You know what I mean?
We were talking about this before too, talking about how whenever you're making the jump or looking for another opportunity, trying to get to that next level, once you actually make it there, you find out immediately who's there still supporting you, rooting for you,
who's really there for you,
and who immediately goes into the background in the shadow and just like no longer is serving you and clearly wasn't there for you from the jump, even though they maybe gave the perception like they were.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I went through in my life is my husband passing away, and that was very sobering for many reasons, but the main one being that, like, you really realize no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. You know, especially if you go through shit, like something serious in your life, you will find out people will be there for you initially on a surface level, but everyone retreats into their own life for the most part. And there's going to be less than a handful of people who are truly going to show up for you in a time of need. And that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Right. Yeah. No. So, but to that point, though, to talk about, because you know, obviously, like, had some very real personal challenges. It'd be interesting to hear you talk about what that process was with your husband, and you know how that went down. How did you sort of either find the strength, or how did you approach that particular challenge, and what helped you get through that?
I think the wildest thing is, so much changed quickly in my life in so many different ways. Like, if you shoot back to, you know, 2018 or 2017, whatever, we're like in Croatia, we're on vacation. I have my own practice. I'm having high profile cases. I'm doing really well. My office looks like a botanical garden because guys are literally sending me flowers just to ask me out.
Every week.
Not the botanical gardens.
This is how guys would ask me out. Like, I was doing well in my career. Like, the world was my fucking oyster. You know what I mean? And I'd known my husband since law school, but we were just friends. We worked on some cases together. And I grew to start having this kind of like fond feeling for him that I'd never really had for anyone. It was like a mix of like deep respect and deep admiration and deep caring. And it was, I just realized I was starting to fall in love with him. And so we started dating, and things progressed kind of quickly. And we both knew we wanted to have a baby and get married. So we did all that kind of like at once. Oh, okay. You know, and so I went from like just traveling and doing whatever the hell I wanted to now being married, pregnant. Oh, wow. Barely, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's a big, marriage is a big shift on its own. Yes. A baby is a big shift on its own. Like, your marriage needs to be in a really solid place to do that. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be in a transitional
You should have told me that before I had the twins. I didn't know.
No, you didn't. Well, now you know.
It's already done.
They don't tell you much. They don't tell you much until
no backsies.
God. So now I'm like married. I have a kid, and just as I'm adjusting to that, my husband starts like deteriorating for no reason. Remember, he was like a very athletic guy. He used to be a model.
And he was in his 30s, like a top model. Time, right?
He was a black belt. He was in his 30s. He was the most amazing lawyer. He was my work partner. This guy was involved in every aspect of my life. He's the father of my child, and he's married to me at home, you know, and we work on some cases together. Like, he is literally my support. There wasn't an area of my life that he didn't have his hands in. So this wasn't like an ordinary type of loss for me. You know, most people, if they lose their spouse, horrible, awful, psychologically recognized as the worst type of loss, worse than losing a child. But this guy was also my work partner. Like, I depended on him. You know what I mean? So I didn't know how to deal with that. And he started like deteriorating, and doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with him. And I figured out he had ALS, and I had to take him in and say, run this test, run that test. And, you know, I remember the day he got diagnosed, like, we just laid on the couch and hugged for like 2 hours straight. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't even say anything to each other because like we just knew it was the beginning of a goodbye.
And then a month later you find out
then
that
a month later
your son has a level 3 autism.
Yeah, he had some issues with speech. I was then a month later told, hey, your child has a long life disability and we don't even know if he's going to be independent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
what was that?
And a few months prior to that, I had a miscarriage. A month before that, my best friend from high school had died. So it was like, I had gotten into this headspace almost from these things happening of like, okay, what's next?
Right.
What's next? Like when you're just like in survival mode, like what is going to happen to me next?
Right.
And that is the worst headspace you could be in because if you start thinking that way of like, what's going to happen to me next, some shit's going to happen to you next. It's going to keep happening. You don't want to be in this frequency of victimhood, do you know, or your life happening to you. So at some point in the middle of all this, I had to kind of take back the narrative. Like, yeah, my husband died. Yes, my child is disabled. Like, this isn't the end of my story. This isn't where the story ends for me. And it's going to get better.
Right.
It has to.
It has to.
And just keeping that faith, you know, with God, with the universe, with yourself.
Yeah.
To look back and say, you know, you've already overcome so much in life and you haven't lost any battles. So why would I start losing now?
Come on.
I'm going to overcome. And this is not the end of my story because like it was really hard, but you got to get out of that frequency of like victimhood.
Right.
Or life will continue to victimize you.
Right. Right. But that's like, I mean, listen, as you say it, it sounds like, of course, logical, right? Of course, this is how you think. But when you're in it, when you're in the pit, you're in the valley, it is not an easy thing.
No, it's just, you got to put like one foot in front of the other. And, you know, I'd be lying if, you know, I cried every day.
Of course.
For a year after my husband died, I screamed in my car.
Yeah.
Because that was the only, I would cry in my car because like, what am I going to do? Cry in front of my kid?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even still now, I have such hard days with my son's behavior and just being responsible for everything financially, physically, having to move mountains just to like spend the night with someone I'm dating. It's just like it's a lot. You know what I mean? So
there is, I mean, you know, the trauma response for everyone is so unique. And I think that you're a fantastic example of someone who went through like a very big bout of a lot of different traumas at the same time.
Yeah.
And still was able to push through it and show up for your son and move forward and have the conviction that like, this is part of the path, but this isn't the path, right? And to like get out of that. I think about you as a friend and how I've known you for so long and even work and sports and life and love and you as a mother. I think consistently is you're so in tune with yourself. You are so self-aware.
Yeah.
You are so in tune with what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, what you need, what you don't need. And you very consistently like put yourself in a position to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, even through all adversities and everything like that. And whether that's like meditating for 5 minutes or making sure that you give yourself that self-talk that's like, this is not the end of my story.
Well, this is your life. You're the director of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if there's someone or something in your show that you don't like, you got to cut them out.
Right.
Or if the plot is not going as planned, you got to fix that shit because nobody's coming to save you. And it sounds silly. A lot of things helped me when I was going through this very difficult period of my life. Obviously, I have a strong faith in God. I have a strong faith in myself.
Yes.
And I think I was telling one of my friends a few days ago, I was like, I think my favorite thing about myself is that I don't give up on myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of things that have happened recently where it's like, it would be easy to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's incredible. And I think so many people can learn from it.
And a lot of it was like seeing what happened to my husband because he was such a vivacious little guy and just, he was great. He was amazing. But like, he was so strong. Like even when he got sick, he was so positive. He never complained. Like he went through the worst physical deterioration someone can go through.
Yeah.
And he never complained. He was like, everything's going to be okay. Like, you know, he stayed positive. He kept working. He was using dictation on his computer. You know, I helped him wind down his practice and go to court and take care of his cases when he physically couldn't. But like, he was still pushing through until the very end. And that was like so inspiring to me. And he's kind of like a source of inspiration for me in that way. And during that time, I used to listen to a certain song. I know it sounds silly, but there's a song called "The Show Must Go On" by Queen. Queen is like my favorite band. I don't know if you guys know, Freddie Mercury was also, he was Persian. So,
that's right. Yeah.
He was Persian. So this song, "The Show Must Go On," listen to it, listen to the lyrics. But the backstory to that song is so crazy because at the time he was terminally ill. He was dying of AIDS. And actually his illness had progressed so badly that like his bandmates were like, are you sure you can physically record this song? Because it was a very physically demanding song to record. And if you listen to the song, he absolutely fucking killed it. You know, and like to think that he was dying while he recorded that.
Absolutely.
And just the lyrics, it's like goosebumps. You know what I mean? So you just got to put one foot in front of the other. And you got to just keep going, and you got to have faith that it's going to get better.
No, I think there's some people, I mean, your example is great. I think of Chadwick Boseman a lot, and who was dealing with terminally ill and no one knew. And when you look at his last work and like that he was just putting it all on the dance floor and was clearly ill, and you know, like the energy level must have been crazy, and how he must have had to comport himself to perform at that level. With that level of illness, there are people I think who have come. It sounds like your husband was one of them.
Just lights.
But they show us this, and I've had this with other people in my life personally who, you know, passed very early and like almost in their prime, where their strength like was almost, it was like they got me through their end of life. You know, and like there was something that showed up, this level of both peace and resilience merged together, where they, you know, kind of just surrendered.
That's the word.
Oh, is it?
See, this is the most important thing in life. So a lot of meditation and spirituality kind of hinges on this concept of letting go. But you're not actually letting go, right? You're surrendering. You're surrendering to your circumstance, not in a way where you're like, I'm helpless, I can't do anything to help myself.
Absolutely.
But you're surrendering to the things that you can't change, while simultaneously believing in yourself and that there's a higher good, that there's that God has your back, the universe has your back, and that it's going to work out to your favor. Because in reality, life has its twists and its turns, but whether one turn is favorable or not, it's ultimately getting you to where you're meant to be. And when you get into that frequency of surrender, where you've let go, that's when the quantum field actually sends you what you deserve. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you're not being resistant to it.
Absolutely.
And so surrender is really if I could give one type of advice, it would be just surrender. And that's actually something I personally really struggled with, and I meditate on, you know, a lot.
That's exactly how I think my husband finally came to me. I remember actively laying in bed and saying, like, closing my eyes and saying, like, whoever you are, I know you're out there, and now I'm ready for you to come to me.
I love that.
Like a couple months later,
listen,
you know, he's like, I want to take you on a date.
I love that.
And I'm just like, what? You know? And so literally it was like I was finally just
whoever
letting go.
Are,
One of the guided meditations I like to do for this is Joe Dispenza, letting go. It's just like surrendering, not in a way of like, I don't want this, but just being detached from the outcome. And that I'm good with or without it. And also like, the other thing that I do that really helps me is I write affirmations for myself.
I love that.
After I meditate in the morning, I read the affirmations to myself.
And it all helps too with like managing the anxiety of life. Like, I mean, every time that I get anxious or I feel overwhelmed or whatever, like I have to go stand outside, like feet barefoot, like on
literally
the ground.
touch grass.
Literally touch grass.
No, that's grounding.
No, it's real.
That's not crazy.
It's not crazy at all.
So much better.
No, it's a real thing.
I literally meditate and I like to garden for a few minutes in the morning.
I love gardening.
Because that's grounding when you touch the earth.
Yes. My whole office has like plants on the wall, and like I have tons of plants. I'm like a little plant hoarder in my office, but it's like I have to have, and then anytime if a plant is like not surviving, I'm like, gotta get a new plant. And I'll tell my husband, like, if
when you touch plants, they die. define? What does that mean?
No, but when we have like trees or plants or whatever that aren't doing well at the house, I'm just like, shit's going wrong in life. I'm like, you gotta get rid of that plant.
The harbinger.
No, I'm not even kidding.
No, I believe you.
I literally pulled out like tons of trees that were suffering in the desert climate because they were browning. And I literally saw like chaos at work and this tree is dying. I'm like, fucking get rid of the tree. I'm not kidding.
A little superstitious.
I'm very superstitious. I'm very superstitious. But I
am too, honestly.
Yeah.
So at this phase in your career, you know, having been through all that you've been through personally and also professionally, like what for you is different now running your practice than it was in the beginning? What do you feel for you has been the biggest change or evolution?
Well, I think the biggest change was my husband passing away because he was like a support for me at the office. Even if he wasn't formally on a case, like we would help each other with our cases, and he was so brilliant. And for a minute there after he passed, I had such weird feelings. I felt angry towards the practice of law. I felt like it had killed him. But like just the stress of it, it's an extremely stressful job. I felt like it killed my husband. And then I felt like I didn't have my partner anymore and I didn't want to do it. I was just really angry and not motivated to continue practicing law. And my husband sent someone to my office, another lawyer who's kind of like him, and there were a lot of synchronicities that are unbelievable that I know is confirmation he sent him. I know this sounds really woo-woo, but I went to a medium after my husband passed, and the medium was like, oh, he's giving confirmation he was wearing a hat at a hospital. When I gave birth to my son, my husband was wearing like a vacation hat. And the whole day I roasted him and I was like, what are you doing? We're not on fucking vacation. You're wearing a vacation hat. So he literally used that to confirm his presence with the medium, which was hysterical. And he said a lot of things during that reading or whatever. But at the end of it, the medium was like, he says he's going to send you a surprise at the office. So I was like, okay, so I was going into the office the week after that. I thought like a frame was gonna fall, or like I was looking for a bookshelf to be something to be moved on the books. You know what I mean? So during this week, this guy moves across the hall from me, older guy around my dad's age, and we become friends. I start talking to him. I realize his practice style is very similar to my husband's, which is rare. You know, it's hard to explain this, but and then I told him what happened to my husband. Do you know what he says to me? I had a law partner named Patrick who died of ALS.
What?
Yeah, he literally had a law partner named Patrick who died of ALS.
Oh my God.
Not your husband.
Not my husband. And this is the kicker. He was Persian. Which like Persian people aren't named Patrick, but that was his American name. Okay,
right.
So like that was like confirmation my husband had sent him, and also he was licensed the year that me and my husband were born, 1982. Oh wow! So it's like if you crunch in the numbers into like Chat GPT or something, there's zero chance that this can be a coincidence.
Of course,
this is a message.
Yeah.
When the universe sends you high level synchronicities like that, that's like a wink.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's confirmation.
Absolutely.
So my husband sent me an actual person to help me at the office.
That's amazing.
So we work on some of our cases together.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I don't feel so alone now, and I feel like remotivated.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, and all that.
What a great gift.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So what a great gift. It's always lovely when you can get those confirmations. Like it's very grounding, you know, when that happens, you know, and I've asked for them before, like I need you to do some stuff here.
Yeah.
And it's so like just satisfying when you get that like confirmation or something comes together. I call it like kind of like a holy alignment. Like something falls into place. I'm like, none of these things should be lining up the way that they're lining up. Yep. And it's so kind of perfect or so ethereal.
Well, it's like divinely coordinated.
Facts. That's no, because I have my little.
Drake has a song about it. It's called God's Plan. Look it up.
Well, Drake might want to check on God's plan, you know, because you know
this should be getting weird sometimes. Yeah, it gets weird sometimes.
It gets a little
not
weird
gonna lie.
But yeah, it's always just such a great confirmation when you can get that. It's very soothing, you know, and just very comforting to know that someone's like looking after you. Yeah.
For sure, yeah, and just surrendering to that plan that a higher good. There's a higher good,
absolutely,
and you're on the right path.
Absolutely.
Thinking about your career, we've talked about how your son has autism.
Well, I would say that's my first career.
So as an entrepreneur, do you always think of your you being a mother as your first career.
Well, yeah, I don't have a choice. I'm not a single parent. I'm a sole parent. That's very freaking different. Single parents get to drop their kid off with their ex every few days and then they go live their life. I don't get to do that. You know, like I explained earlier, I can barely spend the night away from my son. You can't really pay a babysitter to spend the night with your kid, especially like a special needs child.
Right.
Like they're very picky about who they will spend the night with.
Sure.
You believe in balance, or you think that no, you prioritize your son and then sometimes you prioritize work? Like there's all this talk in, you know, aspiration about having like work-life balance. I personally believe that's a lie. There is no balance. I don't think you could have everything all at once at one time. I think you could have things in different points of time, and I think that you need to make choices, and then you have to be okay with whatever is going to.
I don't agree. I think you can have it all. You just have to be really talented at doing the balancing act, and also get lucky in a way.
Yeah.
That all the chips will fall where they need you to. Like, obviously you have a kid, okay, cool, but I have a special needs kid. It's going to make it more challenging. Oh, you're a single mom, okay, cool, but like I'm a sole parent. I can't. Do you know what I mean? There's just like levels to this shit of like how trying it can get.
Yeah.
But you still feel like you have like
I try not to have limiting beliefs about myself because, you know, I don't want to get into that state of mind of you are what you think. And I don't want to have that limiting belief. But like, of course, there are days where I'm like, how can I even like date? Like, I mean, like I have a kid, I can't spend the night. And when I do, I'm like having to move Mount Everest to do it. And like, who wants to deal with that? Like, I'm amazing. Don't get me wrong. Someone's going to want to deal with that. But like, it's just harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What would you say is your definition of success today versus when you first started practicing law?
I think my definition of success is the same that it's been my whole life, which is happiness. And my opinion on what happiness is has changed. It's become more realistic over time.
Sure.
Because when we're kids, we think happiness is when your life is perfect and you have the picket fence and you're married, your marriage is perfect, your kids are normal, you have money, you never have to worry about money, you go on vacations, you have everything you want, you're healthy, right? That's stereotypical happiness, and having those things simultaneously for an extended period of time, you are now in a state of happiness. In reality, that's not happiness. Happiness is life is real. Shit's going to go wrong. Not everything's going to be right at the same time. You're going to go through trials and tribulations, but as a person, if you're able to create happy moments, okay, so like I'm on vacation with my kid, we're having fun, even though he has a problem, my husband's not there, we're still loving each other and happy, or I'm dating someone I'm really into and we're feeling each other, and like there's just, you know, happiness is fleeting.
Oh yes.
Happiness is fleeting. And as a person, you have to be able to patch those happy moments together and in your consciousness create the state where like I've had these moments, I'm patching them together, I'm living a happy life despite the trials and tribulations.
Yeah. Now, I found it, I don't know if you find this to be true, but to expand on what you said, for me, I feel like the deeper trust I have in myself, that I can, whatever is happening, that I'll be able to your point, like I'm going to get through this. Like I just like the more trust,
not giving up on yourself, believing in yourself. Yeah.
I'm able to bring in more happiness in that state.
Yeah, because if you don't have that belief, you get into the frequency of like, this is it.
Yes,
you know what I
your
mean?
conditions will determine your happiness.
And then you will attract more of whatever is keeping you down.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's important to just stay positive, even though it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's really so hard sometimes.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Well, Niki, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. And we think that your whole life journey and sharing everything with us is really inspiring and will connect with a lot of people. And I think that if anyone's going to take away anything from this podcast, it's definitely like you should be in tune with yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, and do what you need for you, not for others.
Yeah. But thank you for showing up with such just honesty, transparency, and vulnerability, because it's very real, and I think it's something that I connect to. I know it's something all the people who watch this will connect to, because it's real life.
Yeah.
How we get through things.
Yeah, I mean, life doesn't come with like a user's manual. You kind of have to learn as you go along.
I think they burn mine.
One of my favorite things is when I meet older people, I love to question them and pick their brains, because there's really nothing more valuable than life experience, truly. Absolutely. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.